Welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. Today I'm going to talk about how to grow blackberries, how to maintain them to get a good harvest. What I have here is a thornless blackberry. This is a prime Arkansas Freedom, I believe. I believe that's the ordering of the words. You see it online different ways. This is a thornless variety, and this was the first thornless variety developed that gives fruit on the primocanes, that is the new growth. Some blackberries give fruit on the floricane, which is the second year growth. This particular variety has the potential to give fruit on both. So how do you know what to remove and what to leave behind when you're doing some pruning? The plant tells you. You can notice there's this dead growth down here. That is last year's fruiting growth, and it's done. Once it dies, it's done. Once a floricane or a primocane fruits, then it dies off, and you're left with all the new growth. And you can tell the new growth because, well, it's not dead. And we're gonna prune out all this mess here, and then we're gonna tip these a little bit to encourage some lateral growth, and we're gonna clean up this mess. This particular plant is 2 years old, and it gave me a lot of fruit last year. But we're going to come in here and remove this old growth that we no longer need. Anything that's dead comes off. Throw that out that way. That one just snapped right off. Okay, well, that's pretty much all of our dead growth. That's not looking real healthy. We'll trim that back. Okay, dead growth is removed. You'll notice with these thornless blackberries is that they run underground. I've got new plants coming up all through this bed, so I'm going to dedicate this bed just to my perennial blackberry plants. And these will continue to grow for you year after year after year, give you a good harvest. We also want to clean up any growth that might be going into the middle, like this shoot right here. That's heading into the middle. We're going to take that off. This one's crossing over. No, it's not. That'll do. Let me get you up high and show you what we're going to do. This plant already has lots of nice lateral growth, and it's on this lateral growth, these branches basically, that come out from the main cane. That's where your fruit's going to be. If you've got a nice long one growing like this, though, you can come out here and tip it. Let's find us an outward facing bud. Just a little bit, knock that apical dominance back, and that will encourage some more of these little shoots to come off and form laterals. That's what we want to do. Just do a little bit of tipping where you've got some canes that are really long. That one's got a lot of lateral growth coming out. I'm going to leave that one alone. This one's nice and branchy. We'll leave that alone. This one's kind of crossing over a bit, but it'll be all right. Well, we're going to take this one down to this bud right here. This bud will grow this way and won't cross over. All right, I think that's all the pruning we're going to do. There are several different growth habits. Well, there are 2.5 growth habits when it comes to blackberries. Thornless blackberries and other blackberries, they're either trailing, which means they're vining and you need to trellis them, or the other category is erect or semi-erect. This is an erect variety. It stands up on its own, and we don't really need to trellis it, but I'd want to keep this kind of in place in this area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a T-post on each end of my bed and run a wire across so I can tie up some of these canes that are kind of going out where I don't want them to go. You don't have to do that. You can just let them go. But we're going to do that. I've got new plants coming up over here. This is going to get jungly at some point. I get my trellis in place now. I can keep everything kind of contained and less wild. If you don't have a T-post driver and you use these T-posts often, get you a T-post driver. You won't be sorry. I'm going to be using this wire. I forget what gauge it is. It's the same wire that I used several years ago when I built my muscadine trellis. And we're just going to put our wire around our T-post and twist it off. It doesn't have to be super taut. We're not going for tension, we're just going for some support. All right, we have a wire. It's not real pretty, but it ought to work. We're going to loosely tie these guys off just so they're not running all over the place. Fighting against me here. Come on, fella. There we go. Again, this is really unnecessary. I'm just doing this so that I can walk around back here. This guy, kind of long, limbery. I'm going to put this guy over here too and tie it up. Let's see, grab you under a branch there so it'll hold. There we go. Now this tape will last for years, but it won't harm the plant. This one, I'm going to leave that one growing. It's pretty erect on its own. This soil is part of a Hugelkultur bed. It used to come all the way up to the top. And what we did was we filled the bottom of this trough after drilling holes all around the perimeter for drainage. This had no holes in it. I had to drill those holes. We got to have good drainage. So we drilled the holes. We filled the bottom with bits of log, bunch of sticks. When we cut Lucy down the first time, most of Lucy went in here, and that's about the lower foot of material in here. And as that's rotted down over the past 2 years, you can see the soil has receded. Once these new plants start growing and get a little bit bigger, we'll add some soil to this and gradually bring the level back up. But the majority of the soil that we put in here on top of all those logs, which you can see is maintaining moisture down in the, well, maybe you can't see. I could feel it though. It's holding on to moisture really well. It's just expired potting soil. There's a lot of perlite in here. We just went around and found all of our old potting soil in old buckets and containers, and we put that in here. I put a little bit of bagged soil in here as well, and we topped it off with some actual topsoil because we needed that mineral content from that topsoil that had a little bit of sand in there. So this is just kind of an amalgamation of different kinds of soils, and it's very light, fluffy, and loose. It drains well, but it holds on to some moisture, and all that rotting wood down at the bottom also helps to hold on to some moisture down there deep. So nice little bed, nothing special about it. We're not worried about pH or anything. These blackberries, they grow like they're super vigorous. I do hit it with a little bit of fertilizer every now and then. If I've got some left over in the can, I'll just come and dump it in here. But generally, you don't really even have to fertilize blackberries. They grow so well, they're just so vigorous. Yeah, get you some thornless blackberries. I mean, no thorns. I can rub my hand up against there and not get poked. I made some excellent blackberry jelly from this plant last year, and I still have some. It's delicious. I can't describe to you how rich and sweet and a little bit tart these blackberries are. They're absolutely wonderful. This is why I grow blackberries. This is the jelly that I made from those blackberries last year. I have 2 jars in the pantry left, and I'm working on this one here. I showed you a video on how to make this last year, so if you're interested in that, check out my video. But this is the reason I grow blackberries. Isn't that awesome? Fresh from my own garden. Cheers. Thanks for joining me today on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. If you're interested in growing fruit in your backyard, a micro orchard, a micro vineyard, or just raised bed vegetable gardening, please join our channel and subscribe. We're teaching garden and we have a lot to teach this spring, so come along and we'll talk to you next time. Happy gardening to you. Bye-bye.